Welcome back to the podcast. Today we have on David. I'm not going to try and pronounce your surname because I know it's Irish and I'll butcher it. How do you say it? Cogley. My cousin's called Keelan and it's kind of spelt like that, but it's really long. And I just try and stay away from Irish names because they never goes phonetically how you want. David's a great example of somebody who's taken an in-person PT business, supplemented it with online coaching, and without getting deep into the numbers, has kind of smashed way through the barriers of what people would normally expect a PT to make. I think that's a fair assumption. Usually when people get into PT, you expect 50K a year maximum as being like top end of the spectrum for an in-person. And he's kind of changing the narrative on that a little bit about, having to give up one-to-one to go completely online and using it as something, that kind of just builds the business in the way that he wants it. So I think the best place to start would be how did you get into coaching and why did you get into coaching?
I think I've probably always wanted to help people in some shape or form. When I was about 17, I went to a seminar run by a trainer called Phil Learney in Dublin, and I really liked the way he was talking about his career, and he was probably one of the top of the game at the time. And I kind of liked how he was talking about how he was going about his business, and I thought he was the man at the time, so I thought I'd like to do something like that. And then I kind of just looked at probably the best way to go about it. So I decided that I wanted to go to college, or I think uni is what you call it here. So I wanted that experience as well. So I picked a degree that I thought would help me. So I went and studied a degree in strength and conditioning. So studied for 4 years in Ireland in that. I thought about coming over to the UK then to start my career, but then I was actually offered a scholarship to do a master's as well. So that one thing led to the other. I did a 2-year master's by research, and then from that then I applied for a job over here, came to Manchester. I started working in a high-level personal training gym for the last 3 or 4 years. And yeah, that's how it all started for me.
What made you specifically go into strength and conditioning? Like why
I thought strength and conditioning would probably give me a better understanding of weight training and exactly how to train people than a general sports science degree. There was plenty of sports science degrees around at the time, but there was only 2 degrees in strength and conditioning, which was only becoming a thing at that point in Ireland. I think my course was definitely geared towards working with athletes as such. But I kind of made a conscious decision pretty early on that I didn't want to take that route. There was 18 people in my course, and I think I was the only one that wanted to work with normal, everyday people, which I think I was probably one of the best in my course at the time. I think that probably pissed off the people at the top a little bit, but I made a decision that it was going to be more money long term in just working with everyday people. Yeah,
I think realistically at that point you were right. I know a lot of people that did go into elite level sport, and
it's a race to the bottom. There's no money to be made.
Well, it's one of supply and demand issues, isn't it? There's that many people that I want to be an elite level rugby strength and conditioning coach. I want to work in football. I want to work in this. The clubs are just rubbing their hands together. Cool. Who can we get in that's the highest quality for the lowest price? And somebody will always outbid you on it. So what made you decide? So you went to this seminar with Phil Learney, right?
Yeah.
What got you to that point? Why go to a Phil Learney seminar? How did that come about?
I think my sister was actually going out with a pretty high level bodybuilder at the time.
I thought you were going to say going out with Phil Learney then.
No, she was going out with a pretty high level bodybuilder at the time, and I was kind of halfway into training myself at that point. And he kind of took me under his wing a little bit, and he was going to it, and I just said, I just go with him and see what's what. And I kind of just went from there. I thought I just really liked the work he was doing. He was changing lives, and that's what I wanted to do as well. So that was really day one. I think I was 17 at the time.
That's quite early then to really get into it. And you knew what you kind of wanted to do straight from there.
Yeah, I knew what I wanted to do. I did toy with the idea of going into something completely unrelated. I thought business, because everybody expects to do something like that. I think my parents would have preferred me to go be an accountant or something like that. And I did toy with the idea of studying business in uni. I put it down as one of my choices on the list that we have to fill out beforehand, but I changed it a week before. I said, no, that's not for me. We did, I had to have a conversation with my parents because they wanted me to do it. I said, look, I could do that. I'd probably be unhappy for the rest of my life, or I could pick something that it might be slightly harder to make a good income from, but I'll enjoy working. I'll enjoy going to work and making a difference.
How did that conversation actually go?
At first, they were a little bit iffy, but they supported me 100%. Once I sat down and I explained it like that to them, they supported me 100%, and they have every day since.
Wow, that's really positive. Usually, sometimes.
It can go. I think they knew that they weren't going to change my mind. And like I said, they've been very supportive since, so it's been brilliant.
What was the decision to leave Ireland like?
It was, to be honest, it wasn't that hard. It was logical. I was looking at a company. I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn from the best, and so I went to what I thought was probably the best gym to learn how to train people. I had no experience in actually training people. I had 6 years of uni experience behind me and a lot of theory, but I'd never actually really trained anybody in person. So I picked somewhere. I went. I learned. I absorbed everything that they had for 3 years, and then I just went on from there. And then I started running my own show after that. So it was. While studying, I always knew that Ireland wasn't going to be like the be all and end all. I would probably end up moving out after a while. It was just a matter of where. Like I had the idea of London, I had the idea of different places, but I thought Manchester seemed a good balance of more affordable and just a good life as well.
Do you think that you kind of mentally treated that as like a paid apprenticeship almost?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I spent 3 years probably not making probably, I wouldn't say I was breaking even, but I wasn't making a whole lot more than that. And then obviously we had COVID mixed in there as well. So there was probably a year and a half where I was back and forth. I'd get a few months off work, went back to Ireland, came back. So I'd say while I learned a lot for 2 to 3 years, yeah, I didn't make that much money doing it.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, apprenticeships realistically aren't that kind of scenario anyway.
I learned a lot. That was the main thing.
What would you think your biggest takeaways were from that point?
I think, so I went into that with the intention of just training as many people as I could. I was happy that I had a base level of knowledge from uni, and I knew that what I needed was just more people in front of me to learn. I needed to make mistakes with people in order to learn from those. So I think my biggest takeaway was just how to deal with people, I think. And obviously as an in-person personal trainer, there's quite a lot of interaction with people. So I think one of the skills that I learned quite well is like how to read people, how to read the room. If someone's lying to me, what to do. If someone's having a bad day, what do I do? And how to kind of converse with people in a way that will get them one step nearer to their goals each time.
What kind of things do you think you picked up from maybe potentially going working with an employed company rather than going working in, say, like a commercial facility and stuff like that? Like,
I think what it allowed me to do is I didn't have to worry about marketing. So I could put more time into my clients, and which allowed me then to get better results. I didn't have to worry about finding clients, didn't have to worry about marketing, I didn't have to worry about any of that. So there was no social media, very, very limited social media, if any. And yeah, it was just literally on my clients all day, every day. And it allowed me to take on more clients than probably a normal PT would, because I didn't have to spend the time on social media and on lead generation and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I think there's an argument to be made as well of the level of stress and pressure that going straight into a self-employed role coming out of, say, university, for example, when you generally don't leave university with a massive amount of cash behind you anyway. If anything, you come away with probably the biggest debt that you've ever taken on besides a mortgage. You're then thrust into self-employment when realistically, it might not even be that, you're still very mentally young, I think, when you come out of uni. Like, you've not really lived in the real world. You've kind of lived in this little bubble that's sort of a step away from living at home, but not really the real world. And for personal trainers, I don't think there's a massive amount of opportunity to go into an employed role and actually, have some stability and start learning. I think everything's a little bit, you can come and work at my gym, but you'll pay me this and then this. Like, that's even on a private sector and in Pure Gym and things like that. And, the large chains, it's very much you do these set hours for us and you don't have to pay us anything or much or however works it now. But then realistically, the rest of the time, you're kind of on your own. So, you can spend most of your time either, working with very, very cheap clients, trying to fill a diary up, or, like yourself, go into an employed role where I think even for any facility that you worked in that kind of do that system, it's fairly expensive for people to get into.
I think the average lifespan of a PT is quite short. Like, I think most people do give up on it quite early. I can't remember the stat, but I saw it the other day. It might be something like 14 months or something, I think. And like you said, I think working in a gym for somebody allowed me, it was just a platform to grow. And then when I left there, I was an established trainer with some results behind me, as opposed to just walking around the gym floor scrambling for clients and not really knowing how to sign people up.
What was without going obviously too much into details, because I know you can't talk about a lot of it, what led to you deciding to leave there and then moving into your own thing?
I think I don't like being told what to do. I wanted to be in more control of what I did, the systems that I used, how I went about dealing with my clients, and taking ownership of my own results. And I think that was probably the main thing. I wanted to, if I produced like an outstanding result, I wanted my face to be on it. I wanted people to know that that was me. And it wasn't just a system that was in place. It was me dealing with that client day in, day out, and being there for them when they needed it. So I think ultimately it was probably that at the end of the day.
You just wanted that kind of almost
recognition.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I know it's always about the client and it's not about me, but at the end of the day, I did want some recognition for work I put in as well.
I think that's a big part of coaching that I think a lot of people glaze over, to be honest with you, is that coaches want to be seen as good coaches. I think it's a natural human thing to want to be good at your job. And I think whether or not it makes any difference to the general public, I think respect from your peers and stuff like that, of you being that trainer that's got those results, that's publicized, in that manner. I think it's really important, to be seen as a good coach and to be, I remember I wanted to be a good coach. I nearly ruined my business at one point, making sure that everybody knew I was a good coach, because that's another problem, is all my social media at one point in my career was look how much I know, I read studies, I know I've got tattoos on my hands, but I went to uni, blah, blah, blah. And nobody ever signed up to my programs because of it. But that was me searching for that kind of recognition in the industry. So I can definitely see where you're coming from that. How did you find the transition out of that kind of environment into
more
kind of running
myself.
Your own business?
Yeah, I like it now. I didn't do any online coaching while I was there because it was very much frowned upon. So now, when initially I signed up with FBU, that was when I kind of launched online coaching as well. And initially it was just to supplement my income. So that was something very new. I enjoy learning new skills and trying new things. So I think going into the business side of things and social media and content lead generation and stuff, that was something that I enjoyed learning. I'm not really probably the biggest fan of talking on camera, so this is a little bit new for me.
Yeah.
But again, it's it was all a new challenge. It was something that I wanted to learn and wanted to do, and I'd say I was probably a bit complacent when I was there towards the end, and I don't like being complacent. I wanted to try something new and embrace a new challenge. So yeah, I think it was probably quite an easy transition. I'd already had the established knowledge as a trainer, so it was just kind of learning the business side of things then after that.
Yeah. What were the biggest challenges you think on the business side of things that maybe you weren't prepared for?
To be honest, I think just before I made the jump, I think was when I signed up with you. So I wouldn't say I had any big challenges as such. I think probably just learning stuff from scratch was probably the biggest thing. Again, I wouldn't say it was a challenge because the systems that I have learned from you and have in place now have made it much, much easier. So things like lead generation, I had absolutely no idea how to do before, but now I wouldn't say I'm fantastic at it, but I have a much better idea than I did. A niche even to focus on. Wasn't really sure what I was doing at the start before, but now I have a pretty good idea. And I think even stuff like business finances and stuff, how much should I be putting away? That sort of thing. So I don't think any of them were challenges as such, but just kind of learning those things was something that was very new to me.
Yeah. And so now that you're in this position, obviously you've got a very sizable amount of income coming into the business from two separate revenues, the online stuff and the in-person stuff that you still do. How do you balance that out? What are your strategies on making sure that you make sure everything gets done? Because to be honest with you, you're running your online business at a level where I've heard people complain about how busy they are. I've heard people at that amount of clients online be like, oh, it's really difficult to keep on top of the content and lead gen and talking to the clients and doing the check-ins, and you're doing that and actually running pretty much another full-time business on the side in the gym. So how do you manage to separate all of that?
I think I have to be kind of smart with my diary and have to be productive with my time. I think in short, there's no getting around it. I think long days are just part and parcel of it. I don't think anybody ever got to the top by accident. So I work Monday, Wednesday, Friday is when I'm busier on the gym floor. So I work early morning and then I work late evening as well. And then during the day is when I do whatever lead generation things that have to do with social media. Tuesday, Thursday, I don't work evenings intentionally. So I have a few early morning clients, but then those are the days that I do my online check-ins. I do my social media all day Thursday and then schedule it for the few weeks ahead of that. So it's just been a little bit more productive with my time than I used to be. I don't have as much time to sit around and watch Netflix anymore, but that's a sacrifice that I'm willing to make.
Do you think if you didn't have the in-person stuff that you would probably be less productive because you've got way more time to do the things that you have to do?
Potentially, but I think you know yourself, when you're busy, you tend to make the time to get stuff done.
Yeah.
I think if I have 3 hours to do a task that takes 15 minutes, I'll probably take 3 hours. But if I have 15 minutes to do that, I'll take 15 minutes. So I think sometimes, however much work you have, you just have to get it done regardless of the time that you have. I'd like to think that I would probably invest that time elsewhere, because I could buy if I could buy back 30 hours or 35 hours and put that time into lead generation and stuff, I would probably I'd be doing much higher numbers online. But I suppose I wouldn't know till I was in that situation.
What would your why are you still doing the in-person?
Do you know what? I'm doing it because I like to do it.
Yeah.
I think probably if money was the sole objective of my business, I probably wouldn't do it. And I think I could probably, like I said, if I could buy back 35 hours that I'm doing on the gym floor and put those into 15 hours into lead generation, 10 hours into my content and extra hours into coaching as well, I probably would make a lot more money. But I do like what I'm doing for now. I don't think it's going to be forever, because I don't want to be 40 years old and still lifting dumbbells onto people. But I think for now I like to do it. I think the quality of results that I get in person with people is probably a little bit higher. It's a little bit higher than I would get online, naturally, because I'm seeing someone in person 3 times a week. So I think that's a big factor as well. And plus I just like engaging with people face to face every day.
I think that you've kind of hit a really good point there, that you're obviously delivering the highest standard possible, right? So when people look at online coaching versus in-person personal training, they see them as very two distinct things. Like in-person personal training is turning up, doing the session, like, see you later, I'll see you on Thursday, Sandra, in a bit. And then your check-in is like, cool, how's your food? Because I've done it.
Yeah.
I'm talking from experience. How's your food been this week? Oh yeah, it's been fine, crying. Right, come on, let's get on the lap pull down before someone else takes it.
Yeah.
And then online coaching is obviously way more in depth on like the lifestyle and the nutritional side of things. But like, I know from the work that you've done in person and obviously the places that you've worked, is you've always kind of had that layered in on top anyway.
Yeah.
That to me is like, I always say that like, if you're willing to do hybrid coaching, it's something you want to do, you should literally be able to knock every other competitor out of the park, because you can deliver everything at a much higher standard than anyone can. With that comes a price that has to be paid to deliver that. And I think that's where some people go wrong, is they undervalue it a little bit. But realistically, like hybrid coaching is the absolute pinnacle of what you can get out of a personal trainer.
Yeah.
I think
as much. I do think there's a lot more accountability when you see someone in face to face every now and again, like when you're doing a check-in in person every now and again. And if I test someone's body fat, say it's much easier for me to say, okay, you are 12% body fat. We can have you abs in 2 weeks. Or you're 15%. It's going to take you 5 weeks to get there. I think that is a lot more accountability for somebody. And when you can paint that journey in their head as to how long it's going to take and what they're going to look like and what they're going to feel like, it's much easier to sell a result.
What's your price point online at the moment?
300 per month.
How long have you been online coaching for now?
7 months.
Okay. So that to me, a lot of people struggle to conceptualize that price point of getting £300 a month. And I wanted to ask you this, like, did you ever struggle with that price point at all, coming from the background that I know you've come from? Because if you're not aware, because obviously we've skirted over the issue, like David works in gyms where people pay a premium for personal training. I'm talking like £1,500 for a 12-week package, and that's probably on the cheaper end. You can get into the 2,000s, 2,500s. I came from a similar background, which is why I know this. When I was charging $250 for my online coaching, I was like, that's a fucking steal. Because if you saw me in person, you'd be paying triple that. Did that really help kind of set that price point for you?
No, not really. In essence, I don't think I had a problem with charging that much money. Like you said, I worked with the company and it was £100 an hour to train with me. At the minute, it's £90 an hour. It's a little bit cheaper. It's £90 an hour to train with me right now. But like when you add up a 12-week package that costs over $3,000, I think to train with me for a month for £300 is a bit of a steal. Like I just tell people, look, it's like a third of the price of training with me in person. So, and I think at the end of the day, if you believe in the service that you're providing is worth that much money, well then charge it. If you don't think you're a £300 trainer, well then don't charge it. I think that comes in the belief in yourself and your ability to deliver on the result as well, because what you don't want to do is charge that money and not deliver on the promise that you've made to a client. Like when I take on someone, I do feel an incredible amount of pressure to provide the result that I've told them that I'm going to get. So I don't take it lightly when someone comes to me and signs up with me as well. I do feel a lot of pressure that I have to deliver on that. So I think that's always in the back of my mind.
I prefer that though. Like that's why obviously you'll know from our program, like we only tell people to do one-to-one coaching, like whether it's in person or online. Like I genuinely believe in that one-to-one, like high touch service.
Yeah.
I would rather have the pressure of like delivering the best than like kind of try and convince someone that like, yeah, well, you know, you get what you pay for. Like, yeah, it's cheaper than other things and you'll get this and you'll get that. I just think it's so much easier to over deliver and just charge a premium than it is to kind of try and temper your expectations and almost meet a set standard for a set price.
I think so, and I think it's a lot easier to generate referrals when a client thinks, okay, I've got the best trainer in this niche. Like people want to talk, they want to tell their friends about the trainer when he's the best, or whether she's the best at a particular area or topic. I know I generate quite a lot of organic referrals just because like people do well, their friends see them do well, and then they're like, oh, okay, who are you training with? And it's a lot easier that way, I think. But I think, like if you're charging lower ticket, I don't think the buy-in is as good. I think automatically there's a much greater buy-in when someone has to fork out a little bit more money. And I think that just helps in the long run. And you have to work with less clients then at the end of the day.
Yeah. I actually quite like an element of pressure as well of like having to deliver at a high level.
Yeah.
I think it keeps you honest almost, that if you, like for me, if we charge lower, there would always be this like, yeah, but you know, they're getting what they paid for. Whereas like, charging the absolute max you can and being like, right, we need to make sure that they get absolutely everything that they can for this. Like, I don't want anybody to be able to turn around and say that they didn't get the money's worth, regardless of how much they paid. I just believe in that. As a coach, I think if you're a coach and you've come into this via coaching, I always feel like that's a more natural step to take rather than like trying to go down a route where you're a marketer and you're trying to drive volume into a program instead. I think it plays the skill sets better.
Like I think at the end of the day, I think results sell. So if you can produce results, it's a lot easier to generate more leads and referrals and just sign up more people. Because I think when I do a consult with somebody and when at the end I ask them why me, they always say, usually they say two things. One is your results and then the other one is your educational stuff. So I think although when I put up something educational on Instagram, like a carousel post, it doesn't really get that much engagement. But whenever I ask them why they've signed up with me, they always reference them. So although it might only get 20, 30, whatever likes, people do read it and they do absorb the information, they do learn from it. So I think that's important to know that as well.
What goes into your social strategy then? Because like you said, you're not the most natural social media person. I don't think you enjoy it particularly.
It's not that I don't enjoy. I don't like talking on camera is probably not my thing.
Yeah,
I prefer to be behind the scenes. So writing educational stuff, I don't mind doing that because I had to do quite a lot of in uni. It kind of comes naturally to me. It's the talking head stuff and speaking on camera. That's nothing that comes so naturally to me. But then again, I know you just have to bite the bullet and do it. So my strategy comes from like everything I've learned from you. So like on specific days, I'll have a results post going up or some social proof, and on another day I'll have like an educational carousel post. So the social strategy that I use is just everything that I've learned from you.
What kind of, everyone kind of makes their own adjustments to their own strengths, I think, with regards to getting the most out of it. So like for maybe somebody that's not overly camera-ish and maybe doesn't enjoy, the kind of the razzmatazz of it. Not that you don't enjoy social media, but you don't enjoy maybe like the very kind of flashy out there style. What kind of just little things have you done to make it like more like you?
I think I just try to stick to my strengths. Because I don't enjoy talking on camera, it's probably a smaller portion of my content than would be for most people. I know like Reels do quite well, and I've seen lots of trainers just post 7 days of Reels. I don't do that myself just because it might get me a little bit more engagement, but I'd absolutely hate doing it. And it's probably not my strength. And if you're not good at something, you don't really want to do it. And if I'm not good at something, that'll probably come across on camera as well. Yeah. I think I'm much, much better at it than when I started.
It's a skill.
And it's a skill, yeah. Like everything, it's a skill. Do it again and again and again. You get better at it. So I don't mind it, but it's still not my favorite.
I do think there's something to be said for making sure that you are putting time in your content plan to do something that you can produce quality in. So yeah, Reels do perform really well, but maybe you doing Reels won't perform as well as you doing a carousel because your natural skill is built around writing. And I think personally, good content is good content regardless. And the kind of people that you potentially want to work with who, you know, are, especially in person, who, you know, have the available cash to pay that, quite happy to read. They're definitely an audience that will read things.
They want to learn.
So
I think off the back of the social media content, the stuff they've been putting up, I was actually contacted by a magazine called Brains Magazine. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's kind of a similar magazine to Forbes, a smaller version.
Oh, okay.
So they reached out to me via email and asked me would I be interested in featuring them. So initially I thought it was a joke, but I responded, got on a call, and they want me to write an article per month now.
Wow.
Which is going to be great exposure. So while videos and stuff is not my thing, they reached out because of the educational stuff that I'm putting up, and they've got 18,000 subscribers and a reach of 300,000 people weekly across all the social media channels. So doing one article per month with them is going to be massive exposure going forward.
Yeah, and massive for your authority as well.
Huge, yeah, absolutely huge. It's just another list of publications to be able to add to my website, which is always good.
Massive. I think there's some really useful tips to take away from that, because it's quite, you've got, I think I'm right in saying, like, you're a coach's coach. Like, you are in this genuine, like, yes, you're doing very well on the business side of things, but internet marketing is not the thing that you got into this game to do. Like, you got into it as being a coach, and I think you've done really well on keeping that coaching presence throughout the thing, even down to like writing the articles and the value you provide on social media. And I think for people maybe listening to this, it's a really good takeaway of like, there are ways that work more efficiently, but I think the most efficient way of doing things will be the way that you naturally like gravitate towards, and that you can produce quality in. And I think, you know, you're a prime example of that like in the era of social media where everyone's telling you to do reels, you just reached a potentially new 18,000 people that you wouldn't have before because of your writing skills. Yeah.
I think, like I said, it's important to play to your strengths as well. And I think at the end of the day, if I can provide value to my clients in whatever way that is, so be it the before and after that they're looking for, or even if it's just been there for them on a day where they're maybe feeling a little bit low, or providing some education through an Instagram post, I think if you provide value to clients, they'll stay. And that's how you sign up clients as well. So like, I do know the importance of producing videos and things, but I think it's always at the back of my mind that I just need to provide value. If I provide value and keep my clients happy, they're going to stay.
I think that's a very, very good point to end on, mate. Thank you very much for coming. If people want to have a look at your socials, where can they find you? So my Instagram handle is @DavidCogley_Physique_Coach, and my website is www.davidcogley.com. Thank you very much, mate. Thank you.